Rather than you going to college or university and struggling to figure it out all entirely on your own, you have an old hag like me to give you some tips and tricks. Please note, today I'm going to give you a bunch of different tips and tricks for how to get ahead and how to really succeed in college or university, but you've got to be the one to enact them, and you've got to find a way to do this yourself in a way that is life-giving to you. I speak truth and wisdom here as a student, as a prof, as someone who has done the university thing before and dropped out before going back. Before we go too far, make sure you like and subscribe for all things higher education, business, mental health, life. Okay, so I have just a bunch of tips in no particular order in how to get ahead in college or university. Number one, read the syllabus. For every course you take, read the syllabus. Read every word. It has rules, it has protocols, it also usually has instructions for what to do when things go wrong. So if you get sick, if you miss a class, whatever, it's in the syllabus. Due dates are usually in the syllabus. Everything is usually in the syllabus. And I didn't learn this until I became a prof and an instructor myself, that syllabi, or the course syllabus, is usually the highest governing document for the course, and the prof has to stick to it. They are bound by it. So especially if they make any mistakes, more on that later, you can use the syllabus as a document to hold them accountable. Read your syllabus for every course you take. Next, do the readings before the class where it will be discussed. Ideally, we want to make class or lecture or whatever the second place where you're learning something so that it's a little bit deeper. Your book, your textbook, your assigned readings, if you have them, should be your first exposure to something where you start to explore it, you form questions, and then you go to class to listen. When you go to class, you can you can ask questions based on like any discrepancies or if you have any confusion, but you can also see, okay, out of the readings, what is the prof or the instructor focusing on? Next, and this is actually maybe the most important tip, find a time management strategy that works for you and stick to it. For example, I live and die by my Google Calendar. Everything is listed in there, from days that I have classes, when it's reading week, to when assignments are due. But a Google Calendar works for me. Maybe you prefer a pen and paper calendar. Maybe you prefer to just set yourself alarms. Find a way of managing your time and staying on top of especially your schoolwork that works for you. Especially on social media, you're going to see a lot of particularly influencers who tell you to like do one method or another. And really what makes those successful is if it works for you. But what they all have in common, and what I'm trying to join and encouraging you to do, is find a strategy that works for you for how to manage your time. Next, don't miss class. Don't miss class. And if you do miss class, if you skip a class, make a plan for when you're going to go back and sticking to going to class regularly. Big reason why, this has definitely been my experience. It's funny because this was my experience when at my first attempt at university before I dropped out. And then I heard of other people who found this as well. When you skip one class, especially if you intentionally choose to skip a class, it becomes easier. You tend to give yourself more permission to skip other classes. Definitely, if you're going to miss a class, make a plan to go to the other classes. Next, find deep ways of learning that you find enjoyable. Really, find ways to learn that you find enjoyable. First, let me say this, from courses I've taken, but also as a teacher, also things I've explored, learning styles are not really a thing. Research has shown time and time again that statistically, people don't actually have deeper or improved learning outcomes if they focus on just one style, like auditory or kinesthetic. But research has also shown that students act against what they think are their own best interests and their best style of learning, and will just go to default modes of learning. We know, though, what causes deep learning is deep meaningful, and enjoyable interactions with learning material. Anything that is deep, meaningful, and enjoyable. So focus on that. If you love making diagrams, do it. You know what I found I love, what actually makes learning enjoyable, is if I can illustrate my concepts. I don't have to draw pictures, but like making charts, color coding things, and talking it out. Actually having my textbook and my notes open and talking about it. If I can, my poor partner, I'm constantly teaching him what I'm learning, because that's a style of learning. Find deep and enjoyable ways of learning the material. That will get you better grades. Next, I want you to find ways to be recognized by your profs or your instructors for good reasons. Be a shining student. Now, this does not involve begging, whining, asking for handouts, complaining. No, you want to get in front of them, but for all the right reasons. You could ask really smart questions. You can make smart suggestions. One way that I've impressed profs, but I've also been really impressed as an instructor, is connecting things that weren't covered in the course with what is being covered in the course. So actually, relatively recently, a student in class had asked about a pretty important article that came out in digital marketing and said, well, hold on, this article from, in this case it was HubSpot, this article from HubSpot that says, X, Y, and Z, how does that relate to what we're talking about here? That was really impressive, that they read the article, they were able to cite it, they knew what they were talking about, and connecting it to the course. That's a great way to stand out. Standing out to your profs is really important because if you want a letter of recommendation, if you want to get into research, especially in your undergrad, if you want those industry connections, you want to stand out to them in a positive way. Next, to be successful in college and university, know your resources. Know where your resources are. Now, what I mean by resources is anything that makes your life better as a student. So this is like financial services. Where is their office? What are their hours? Counseling services, the doctor's office, the dentist, if your school has one. Program advising, academic counseling. Know who these people are, where these departments are. Can you go in person? Do you go online? How soon can you get an appointment? Know your resources. Anything that can make your life better, know where they are and how to access them. And I quickly want to say this about resources. Generally, knowing your school resources is for when things go wrong, not when things go right. So you may think, I don't need to know where my school food bank is. But there may come a day when you are broke and it is 2 weeks to payday, or it's 4 weeks until your next round of funding comes in, and you need food. So remember, resources aren't always for the best of times. They can be for the worst of times. So know your resources, even if you think you won't need them. Next, and this is going to be a spicy one because I am, in this case, both student and prof. Know your rights. Know your rights as a student. Let me start by saying this. As a teacher, as an instructor, I can say, teachers, we make mistakes. We definitely screw up. And in 99.9% of the cases, our ego prevents us and tries to prevent us from admitting that we made a mistake. When you know your rights, when you know how processes are supposed to work and how the school is supposed to work, you are better able to advocate for yourself and improve your own learning outcomes and your own educational experience. I think some rights that everybody should know, some processes that everybody should know include rules of accessibility, everything from like how online classes should be conducted. At the time of recording, I teach at York, and when we teach online, we have to record the session and we have to post the recording within 24 hours because it is accessible. One of the rules that we are also bound by, we cannot require anyone to have their camera on. So students have sometimes said, like, I feel uncomfortable if we have online class and I have to turn on my camera. And I've told students, well, it's actually your right to not turn on your camera. You don't have to turn on your camera. So knowing those things is important. Next, it's helpful to know rules around the classroom, communications, and testing. So What happens if class it gets canceled? How much notice does a prof have to give? If they want to change the class, like the room, if they want to change the start time of the class. And then with testing, are you allowed to talk? What is or is not acceptable? Which then brings us to rules and protocols and your rights around accusations of cheating and plagiarism. Now let me say this. If you have cheated, if you have plagiarized, if you used AI, you're on your own. This next part is for the people who did not cheat, who got accused of cheating. If you get accused of cheating, of plagiarism, of AI use, every school I know has a protocol, has a procedure for what should happen when it should happen. But a lot of the schools don't tell students what it is. Find out what the protocols and the rules are. It's also helpful here to know the limitations. So one classic example, I'm going to admit at the time of recording, it's May of 2024. AI has now really boomed into higher ed. But as a teacher, I can tell you, it is a nightmare to try and prove anybody has used AI. So now, when I go back to school, I know that if a prof ever accuses someone of using AI, there's a lot of holes that you can poke in their arguments, right? They might say, oh, we used Turnitin to detect AI use. Well, Turnitin has a abnormally high false positive rate. Can you really trust it? They might say AI uses common go-to phrases. Well, people who are not, I'm going to use in this context, who are not native English speakers, commonly learn phrases when learning the English language. So there's a lot of holes that you can poke in it, and this is helpful for you to advocate for yourself if you understand the limitations of the accusations that are lodged against you. Always know your rights. Next tip to do well in college and university, find unconventional workspaces. You're going to have a lot of spaces where a lot of people go to work and study. These generally tend to be loud. They tend to be crowded. So find unconventional places to work. This will definitely require your own sleuthing on your own end, but find it and then it'll make your educational journey just that much better. Next, here's a weird one. Charge your devices everywhere you go. Keep your devices charged. You never know when you'll be in a classroom or you'll be in a setting where you are not able to charge your device. And there is nothing worse than being stuck in an environment where you have no charge in your phone, in your laptop, or wherever. I think of, for example, I do love Laurier Brantford, but in a lot of their classrooms, there are not outlets nearby. So you've got to come to class with a fully charged laptop, especially if you have a 3-hour class. Always keep your devices charged. Be ourselves. Have something on you that you can do for fun. Ideally, not just a little, say a fidget spinner or something to tinker with. I'm talking I have my Nintendo Switch with me at school so that if I just need half an hour to breathe, I can play my Nintendo. Or games on your phone, games on your iPad. Ideally not on your phone because we're so connected to those. But bring something with you that allows you to decompress from school so that you're not at school and only thinking about school all day, every day. Next, and this is a real problem in higher ed, and I have some spicy feelings about this, talk to people. Seriously, if you want to do well in college and university, talk to people. Make friends. Have conversations. I know that social skills and making friends is becoming a growing problem. We can combat all of this by literally talking to people. And it's as simple as turn to the person beside you in lecture or go to an event. Join a club. It is astonishing to me how many people get to 4th year and commonly say that their biggest regrets was not joining a club and not making more friends. Really, just greet people in the hallways. Talk to people. It'll change your career. Because remember, a key part of what makes college or university so appealing, a part of the appeal of higher ed, is networking and making connections so that you can get jobs, so that you can get referrals to jobs and opportunities when you're out of school. Next, make a budget. Comment and let me know if you want a whole video on how to do budgeting as a student, but make a budget. And generally for students, your budget will be done one of two ways. I'm about to tell you, but please know I'm not a financial advisor. Definitely talk to someone who works in finance who is a financial advisor. But as someone capable of critical thinking, here's kind of the 2 ways I think we can do student budgets. One, if you're going to school on loans, so you get like a lump sum loan for the semester or for the year, find out how much you've got for the year and then divide it by the number of months that it has to stretch for and it has to work for. Figure out, like, on average, like, how much are you going to spend for groceries, how much are you going to spend for personal, and figure out how much are you able to spend each month so that that lump sum amount at the beginning stretches for the whole year or, you know, however long you have that loan or that money for. Or the other way you can do it, if you're working a job or if you have something like a steady stream of income, find out how much is coming in each month and how much has to go out each month. How much do you have to pay for your phone, for your food? Kind of like I mentioned in that first method, find out the average of how much is coming in, how much is going out, and how much that leaves you left over for whatever you need it for the time that you're in school. But make a budget. So many students end up, you know, 1 to 2 months out from the end of the semester or even a few weeks, and they're out of money. And it's like, okay, I have $6 to get me through the next 3 weeks. That can be prevented by making a budget. And my final tip, and I do have videos on this, but I will say it again, plan your courses based on your graduation requirements. Figure out what courses are required in your degree and actually scaffold them down from 4th year to 1st year. A lot of folks just go into, and this is mainly for university, go into 1st year, they just take whatever they want. By 2nd year, they might start to think about it. Definitely by 3rd year, they're taking their required courses, and then there's nothing worse than getting to 3rd year, getting to the end of 3rd year, getting into 4th year, and going, oh no, I haven't taken all the courses I need to take to graduate. And then you're not able to do your degree in the time that it typically takes. Usually, though, you're dictated by those like 4th year classes or those 3rd year classes that have really specific prerequisites. That's why I say it's helpful to look at like the upper year courses, your 3rd year and 4th year courses. Which ones do you want to take? Which ones are required? And then what are the prerequisites? And design it backwards. Literally, this process should take an hour, 2 tops, with just a really good spreadsheet. You gotta know I love a good spreadsheet. Works for your budget as well. And just plan on like, okay, what do I want to do in 4th year? What are my graduation requirements? And scaffold it so that you know, for example, what you should be taking in 1st year. And those are my top tips on how to do well in college or university from someone who has done university and then dropped out and then done online learning and then teaching and now I'm back in school. So I know a thing or two about this. Comment and let me know. Do you have any other tips? Because there's a lot of collective wisdom out there on how to get ahead in college or university. Because, as I said, millions have come before us, millions will come after us. Hopefully, this wisdom makes this a little bit easier. As always, make sure to like and subscribe for all things school, mental health, business, life. Otherwise, we'll chat soon. Bye for now.